Ever wonder why your town looks completely different from one that's just a few hours down the road? Or why some places are these massive industrial hubs while others are, quiet farm towns? Well, the answer comes down to a core idea in geography, the region. And understanding it is really the key to unlocking why your specific location matters so much. So take a look here. You've got a bustling city, sprawling farmland, a beautiful coastline. On the surface, they feel like totally separate worlds, right? But believe it or not, they're all part of one complex, interconnected system. And that invisible thread tying them all together, that's what geographers call a region. All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the basics. What even is a region? Then we'll look at the two different ways to think about one. After that, we'll dive into what drives development, tackle the really big issue of regional imbalance, and finally, talk about how we can start to bridge that gap. Okay, first things first. Before we can get into all the complex stuff about development and inequality, we have to nail down the fundamental question. What actually makes a region a region? So, to put it simply, a region is just an area that's defined by some kind of common trait. That could be something totally natural, like being part of a mountain range, or it could be something human, like everyone speaking the same language or working in the same industry. The key thing is that it's a space where we can really see how the physical world and human society interact. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Regions aren't all defined in the same way. Geographers actually use two main lenses to categorize them, and each one gives us a totally different way to understand a place. On one hand, you've got what are called formal regions. Think of these as the ones with clear, official lines on a map. Your city, your state, even a specific climate zone. If you can draw a solid border around it based on a shared feature, it's a formal region. But then, on the other hand, you have functional regions, and these are all about connection and movement. They're defined by a central point, a hub, and the area that it serves, like the delivery zone for your favorite pizza place, or the broadcast area for a TV station. The farther you get from that center, the weaker that connection gets. Okay, so we know what a region is and how to classify one. But that leads us to the million-dollar question. Why do some regions just take off, becoming economic powerhouses, while others kind of get left behind? What are the secret ingredients for growth? Well, it pretty much boils down to three key things. First, there's the physical environment. The natural hand you're dealt, like having great soil or valuable resources. Second, human activities, basically where people decide to live in the kinds of economies they build there. And finally, you've got infrastructure. That's the whole skeleton of roads, ports, and internet cables that connects everything and everyone. And this image, well, it's the perfect illustration of how all those drivers come together. You can literally see the physical factors, like the mountains and the coast. You see the human factors, right there in the dense cities and all that industry. And then you see the infrastructure that ties it all together, the airport, the roads, the power grid. It's this unique mix that gives every single region its distinct character and, really, its potential. But here's the tough reality. Those ingredients we just talked about, they are absolutely not distributed evenly across the world. And that simple fact leads to a huge, persistent challenge for all of us. This is the core of the problem, right here. Some regions just get a head start. Maybe they have better resources or better location, and that kicks off a cycle of advantage. Success attracts more people, more money, more investment, which just leaves other regions further and further behind. This creates a massive gap in wealth and opportunity. And that's what we call regional imbalance. And as the source material points out, this isn't a new phenomenon. It's a fundamental truth of geography. The uneven spread of people and economies is deeply tied to the physical world itself. That natural diversity is basically the starting point for the huge economic differences we see all around us today.
And this chart just lays it all out there, plain and simple. Imagine Region A, which has a major port and fantastic infrastructure, versus Region B, which is landlocked and isolated. Over time, that cycle of advantage we talked about really kicks in, and the development gap between them, well, it doesn't just stay the same. It gets wider and wider. This is what that stark reality looks like.
So, is this imbalance just permanent? Is the fate of a region completely sealed by its geography? Not at all. Recognizing the problem is the first step, and luckily, planners all over the world are actively working on ways to create a much more balanced future. So, the good news is there's a strategy to tackle this. It all starts with identifying the areas that need the most help. Then comes targeted investment in that foundational stuff, like roads and internet access. After that, you work to promote industries that create good jobs. And, maybe most importantly, you invest in people through better schools and healthcare.
It's a long-term plan for sure, but it's how you start to level the playing field.
So all of this brings us right back home, back to you. We've looked at what a region is, what makes it grow, and the serious challenge of imbalance. Now, I want you to think about your own community. What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? Because understanding the forces that shape your region is the very first step to actually shaping its future. So what's that future going to look like?